you wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends and neighbors, what do you say? Good morning. Great to see you this morning. This is The Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., bringing you up to date on all the news of the day, whether it's happening here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe. Coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station, on Free Speech TV, and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV. Events in the nation's capital. Hi, everybody. It's Bill Press. This year marks the 10th anniversary of doing the Bill Press Show every day, covering the news of the day with the nation's top newsmakers, either on the line or in our studio right here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Not only that, I go to the White House briefings every day to get answers to the top questions of the day. Bottom line, if it's happening in Washington, D.C., either at the White House or the Capitol, we are all over it. Every day, we welcome to our studio political leaders and reporters and labor leaders and newsmakers to help us understand the issues of the day. We started out as a radio show only, but over the years, we have branched out to all forms of the new media. So today, we're not just a radio show. We are podcasting, streaming audio, streaming video, and we are simulcast live on Free Speech TV nationwide. Reaching out to 40 million households on Free Speech TV, in addition to hundreds of thousands on local radio stations and online.
AFGE is so proud to be associated with this show and looks forward to working with Bill and this show for a long time.
Bill Press is the right man at the right time with the right message.
And thanks to the Bill Press Show, we get our message out to thousands and thousands of people every day. Thank you, Bill Press.
The Teamsters are a proud partner with Bill Press on his show, telling the truth about what's going on with working families. Tune in.
Yes, it's been a fun and exciting 10 years so far for the Bill Press Show. We're looking forward to many more with all of you, broadcasting live every morning from the nation's capital.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hello, friends and neighbors. What do you say on a Wednesday, August 26th? So good to see you today. And here we are with you on Free Speech TV, coast to coast, this great country of ours, and worldwide on our video stream. TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. President Obama back at the White House, a round of meetings today, a meeting with Jewish leaders to talk about the Iran deal. And the president in a little bit of hot water because of some comments he made out in Las Vegas when he was meeting with some supporters at a fundraiser for Senator Harry Reid, where he talked about dealing with the crazies back in Washington. Some Republicans are demanding that he apologize for that comment, but what the hell? I mean, what's wrong with that? Look, if you ask me, those Republican senators who oppose everything President Obama wants to try to get done, from immigration reform to the Iran deal, are indeed crazies. I can think of a lot worse things, or maybe better things, that we could call them. The latest poll shows Bernie Sanders up 7 points over Hillary Clinton in New Hampshire, and Donald Trump among Republicans with a commanding 24-point lead over his second in the GOP primary, John Kasich. It's Trump 35 and Kasich 11. Meanwhile, David Duke, yes, David Duke, racist David Duke, former KKK leader David Duke, says Donald Trump is the best of the Republican Party presidential candidates. With friends like that, And the Dow yesterday, as you saw, bounced back, and then it sank back down again. We can expect the same roller coaster ride today and probably for the next few days. All of that good to talk about today, so give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Off we go.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
Hey, Free Speech TV world, it's Mama and the Mooks here at the Stephanie Miller Show.
Hello. Good morning.
You know, the Seinfeld was about nothing. I think the Stephanie Miller Show is about everything.
A little bit everything.
Yeah, a
it's kind of everything like thrown into a blender and we hit frappe.
Right.
With wine poured in.
Right. Senators, fart jokes, politics, pop culture, entertainment.
Drinking.
Random stray thoughts. It's what all the hip kids are talking about.
Yep.
We have the smartest, funniest people in the country on this show, do we not?
We absolutely do.
Right?
Our sexy liberal army of callers calling every day to tell us all about it.
There you go. And some right-wingers that Travis particularly enjoys talking to.
They're my favorites.
Okay. You can watch us every weekday from 9 to noon Eastern or 6 to 9 Pacific, which is really early. But we still, we try to, we're still pulling in people like Rob Reiner, Lily Tomlin, Frangela, you name it. You can only get it here at the Stephanie Miller Show. Mama, Mooks, fancy celebrities.
And everything.
And fart jokes.
Free Speech TV.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, just for the record, I did not sign up for Ashley Madison. So stop accusing me. Is Carol listening? Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? Big story of the day. That's where we start. On a big Wednesday, August 26th. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So good to see you. Here for the Bill Press Show. We're going to rock and roll for the next 3 hours with the news of the day. What's happening here in Washington? What's happening around the country? What's happening around the globe? If you don't already know, we'll tell you. If you do know, we'll tell you what it all means. And what we think it means at any rate, what our guests think is going on, and then get your comments. We look forward to hearing from you on the phone at 866-55-PRESS. We look forward to getting your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. A hot, muggy Wednesday, August time, but what else do you expect here in this swamp called Washington, D.C.? The president is back in town. The House and the Senate still out of town, but there's a lot going on. A lot of excitement, by the way, building up for the visit of the Pope. He arrives here on September 22nd, I believe. On the 23rd, he will be at the White House, celebrate Mass at the Immaculate Conception Basilica, and then on the 24th he will address a joint session of Congress before he heads up to Philadelphia. Talked with a friend of mine yesterday who's involved, a neighbor actually involved in the security arrangements as part of the Capitol Police team, and let me tell you, this is going to be like a presidential inauguration of the visit of the Pope to Washington, D.C. At any rate, we've got it covered here today. Look forward to hearing from you. Meet our team. You already know Elisa Murphy.
Hey, good morning.
Running the show today. Peter Ogburn will be back tomorrow. Jamie Benson here wearing 2 hats, taking your calls and also doing our full court press today. Jamie?
Good morning.
And Cyprian Bolding, as always, couldn't get there without him. Couldn't get out to you on Free Speech TV or TawkrTV without him as well. And you have to forgive us. We still believe in the Nats. We're still believers. And the Nats are finally showing their stuff again after a little losing slump. Boy, they were red hot last night. They've been red hot the last couple of days.
We're still believers for now.
For now.
We'll see what happens.
Well, they're only 5 games behind.
It's
and they
close.
Have maybe 38 or so around that many games left. Last night, the Padres were here in town. We didn't exactly give them a Washington welcome. We trounced them thanks partly to Ryan Zimmerman. Comes through with the bases loaded. Here is Dave Jaguar.
The 2-0 pitch. Swinging a high drive. Deep right center. Way back it goes. And it's gone! Grand slam, Ryan Zimmerman. The Nationals busted wide open. They lead 8-2.
There it is. Yes, indeed. The final score was 8-3.
Yes.
8-3. And that's all right. Good show. So we got a lot going on today. Senator Amy Klobuchar will be joining us a little bit later. Barry Lynn, the Reverend Barry Lynn, head of Americans United for Separation of Church and State here as well. Reporters from The Hill and from the National Journal. And the TeaEO, he calls himself, of Honest Tea, a great product with some new iced teas for the summer. All of that coming up. But first,
this is the Full Court
Press. A couple of other
Press.
stories for you on this Wednesday morning. We were talking about baseball. Curt Schilling, he's a former Major League Baseball pitcher and ESPN baseball commentator. He also happens to be fiercely conservative and likes to share his views on his Facebook and Twitter feeds. Yesterday, he tweeted a meme, a picture of Hitler that equated Muslims with Nazis. All Muslims with Nazis. He quickly deleted that tweet, but as we know, everything lasts on the internet forever. A few hours later, ESPN's PR department announced he'd be removed from his Little League baseball assignment, but seemed to leave the door open for him to stay on the more watched Sunday Night Baseball. So,
I see.
Kind of a lukewarm
But you're losing the most important thing, Little League.
Little League is great in the summertime.
Yeah, it is.
It's not Sunday Night Baseball, though.
But I don't think it's good to be comparing people to Hitler, even with the adult thing.
Yes.
Right.
A Chinese woman attempted to bring an entire $200 bottle of cognac when boarding her flight at a Beijing airport last week. When she was told that the bottle of Remy Martin XO Excellence was not permitted as hand luggage, she downed the entire thing in front of the airline staff.
All right.
Yes, amen to that.
Our hero, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And naturally, she was not allowed to fly. She began shouting and eventually collapsed on the terminal floor. Her family picked her up a couple of hours later.
No way.
But why shouldn't she be allowed to fly? She was not flying the plane.
That's right.
She wasn't the pilot, right?
They could have just strapped her in tight.
Sure.
It's a lot cheaper than buying drinks on the plane.
Bingo. A German researcher named Christian Luckhopp recently discovered a new crayfish species. He could have named it after himself. Sometimes scientists do that. But instead, he named it after his favorite political figure. Can you guess who it is?
Donald Trump.
Close. Very close. Edward Snowden.
Aha.
That's not close.
One of Lisa's favorites.
It's not close.
He's talked about a lot.
Well, yes. But Snowden's a little more polite.
This species is called Sherix snowden. While there is no physical resemblance, Luckhopp noted that crayfish hide under rocks. So there's somewhat of a similarity between the crayfish and Snowden. He also said...
Forced to hide under a rock.
Right.
Government of ours.
He also said, quote, it has to hide from his enemies, and he comes out in the night and he hunts, and he's protected by a shell. So poetic.
Yeah, that is. All right.
And granted asylum.
Yeah.
Yeah. A new crayfish species?
I know.
Kind of weird. All right. Well, nice to know they're out there hiding. Thank you, Jamie. Yes, indeed. All right. You know, I'll tell you where I'd like to start this morning. I got to come to the defense of our president this morning, and I want to know whether you join me or not. 866-55-PRESS. Look, you know, I'm getting sick and tired of the PC police, the politically correct police. Now, I try to be polite, sort of, but, you know, as a talk show host, I can basically say anything I want except those words that the FCC would fine me for. And I call people idiots a lot, or bastards, or, you know.
No, not you, Bill.
Yes, yeah, right. Well, politicians do have to be a little more careful. I understand that. But come on. I mean, it's getting to be ridiculous with the politically correct police. It's almost like we've got this committee now, right? And before you can say anything, you got to check with the committee to say, now, I was thinking about using this word. Hello, can I use this word? Is this word okay? Right? I mean, it's just getting crazy. And what really prompted this kind of rant on my part this morning is the reaction, mainly from Republicans, I might add, to what President Obama said yesterday out in Las Vegas. It was the night before. About calling some Republican senators crazies. Now, let's talk about the context first. All right. The president's out there. He gives a big clean energy speech, and then he goes off to do a fundraiser for the next Democratic Senate candidate, the lady who's running to replace Harry Reid. I forget her name. Pretty soon we'll all know her name because she'll be the next Democratic senator from Nevada. And so the president is on his way to this fundraiser, And Harry Reid is riding in the car with the president. They have a good relationship. They have a good working relationship. Harry Reid's been very supportive of the president and recently came out, of course, over the weekend in support of the Iran nuclear deal. So they're just chatting, they're talking, they're friends. They get to the fundraiser, and the president talks about the ride over. He's talking to a group of donors again, supporters of Harry Reid and supporters of the woman that Harry Reid hopes will succeed him. And the president says, now let's listen to this quote in its entirety. Now you know the context. And the president tells the people there, quote, "It's hard for me to express how much I love Harry Reid." And he says they were riding over together in the car. And then it says, "We were doing a little reminiscing and then figuring out how we're going to deal with the crazies in terms of managing some problems." And then he talked about, and then they're both going to ride off into the sunset together. All right, listen to it again. "We were doing a little reminiscing and then figuring out how we're going to deal with the crazies in terms of managing some problems." All right, now Politico immediately reported the president called opponents of the Iran nuclear deal crazies. He attacked them as crazies. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. Do you want me to read it again? "We were doing a little reminiscing and then figuring out how we're going to deal with the crazies in terms of managing some problems." Now, clearly, the president didn't say Iran nuclear deal. He didn't say anybody who opposes my Iran nuclear deal, including Chuck Schumer, is crazy. He was talking about the fact, I think it's pretty clear what he's referring to, is there are some crazies on Capitol Hill. There's some Democratic crazies, and there are a lot of Republican crazies who oppose anything President Obama wants just because it's Barack Obama. You talk about whether it's immigration reform, bingo, they supported it under George Bush, opposed it under Barack Obama. Whether it's climate change, on which they won't do a damn thing. Whether it is the Iran nuclear deal. And frankly, I think people who oppose this Iran nuclear deal, which would guarantee us that Iran cannot build a nuclear bomb for at least 15 years. I think anybody who opposes that deal, who's against peace, who's against diplomacy, is crazy. But at any rate, so the Republicans are just, oh my God, they're feigning such outrage. They're demanding that President Obama apologize. I saw one Republican congresswoman yesterday who was lamenting the fact that the president is just introducing such inflammatory language into our political system today, using such inflammatory language. What? Have they heard Donald Trump lately? I mean, this is nothing compared to what Donald Trump said yesterday about Jorge Ramos or Megyn Kelly or Lindsey Graham or Jeb Bush. Who else did he attack yesterday? John Kerry. Here, if we have that, Elisa, here is Donald Trump talking about Secretary of State John Kerry. This is his intelligent comment on the Iran nuclear deal.
He's in a bicycle race. He falls, he breaks his leg. This is our chief negotiator. He's walking in. They're looking at him like, what a schmuck.
So this is language from the other side. And then President Obama makes that harmless statement about Harry and I trying to figure out how we're going to deal with the crazies. I mean, come on. This is just, as far as, you know what? I don't think the president should apologize. I don't think he has anything to apologize for. And if we remember a little far back, John McCain got in similar hot water because when Donald Trump had this town hall meeting in Arizona and something like 10,000 people showed up, John McCain said, all the crazies turned out for Donald Trump. You know what? John McCain was right. They were crazies. I could think of a lot worse words to call them. And President Obama was right. Those total oppositionists, if you will, those people who are against anything, no matter what its merits, who oppose anything just simply because Barack Obama is for it, Obamacare, right? They probably would support it under George W. Bush because it's a private sector system. We've talked about it so much, where the private insurance companies are laughing all the way to the bank because of Obamacare. They'd support it under George W. Bush, but because it's got the name Obamacare on it, because it's got President Obama behind it, they're against it. Those people are crazies, and the president's right to call them crazies. And I just think we ought to get off this politically correct kick on every single word. You know what? The shoe fits, wear it. Crazy fits for a lot of these people. Let them wear it and stop complaining about it. I'd say, should the president apologize? Hell no. 866-55-PRESIDENT. I would have called them a lot worse. I would have called them idiots. I would have called them bastards. I would have called them a-holes. I mean, you know, that's just the beginning of what I would have called them. Crazies? Don't apologize, Mr. President. Should he? You tell me. 866-55-PRESS. Inflammatory? Really? Let's talk about it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
We came here to Foster City, where we're going to watch UC Berkeley, a University of California SWAT team, do a hostage rescue scenario.
All personnel aware of the proper protection equipment. This includes all personnel identified as staff and role players, VIPs, and support staff. Feet, eyes, throat, and drawing protection is mandatory and should be worn at all times by personnel directly involved in or near the scenario. Always check your mask prior to use to ensure there are no cracks and the mask is in safe working condition.
Should I put the water in there now? Yeah, go ahead. This is like some kind of chemical agent?
Yeah. Copy, we're ready. I'm gonna get shot. I already know it, dude. Fiends yelling at me. Help me. Your hands. Help me. Your hands. Back away.
Gentlemen, we have a chemical. We need to pull our person out. Get these guys out of here. Pull them out. Put your hands on your face. Put your hands on your face. Keep him covered.
Your head up. He's got a shotgun back there.
That's all right. Keep his hands up where we can.
Hands on your face.
Hands on your face. On your face.
Someone cover me. I got a holster up, bro.
Okay, pull him around the corner. Pick him up. Get him out of the building. Quickly. We've got this. Let's get that guy out of there. You, come towards us. Keep your hands on your face. Turn around. Face away from us. Back towards us. Quickly. Back up towards me. Quickly. Pull him out of the room.
We're exfilling, Billy.
Yes, we are exfilling.
It was actually around 92, 94. There was an attack on the chancellor at his residence, which is on campus. And we realized at the time that we didn't have any resources to deal with that kind of threat when it took place. So, and I think about 15 years before, they had some kind of semblance of a SWAT team. So they regenerated the idea of activating a SWAT team.
And then since then, you guys have kind of branched out to doing what kind of stuff?
Well, since then, we train for everything. We train for every eventuality, barricaded subjects. Like I said, most of what we do is high-risk warrants.
And it's something like it could be like a mugging kind of thing, just like on the street.
Depends.
Or
I mean, a mugging, but if it's armed, particularly.
Right, an armed mugging.
Right. Exactly. And then obviously we're looking for training for anything else. That we might be faced with, and that's what's great about Urban Shield is we couldn't duplicate this on our own.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour, yes, indeed, President Obama hit a little hot water. These Republicans are, they're so upset because he referred to some of them, unnamed, as crazies. You and I could put names on them. The president did tell this group of donors in Las Vegas. By the way, her name, I apologize for not remembering her name, Catherine Cortez Masto is a Democratic candidate. But the president told supporters there when he began, he said, I just got back from vacation, 2-week vacation. So he said, I'm feeling very much refreshed and very much renewed. And he said, and maybe even a little feisty. So he gave that introduction to it at all. But did he go overboard in saying he and Harry Reid were talking about how they were going to have to deal with the crazies and dealing with some of these issues still pending in front of the United States Senate? No way. Christine, out in Cleveland. Hi, Christine.
Good morning, Bill and
Hi.
crew.
Thank you.
How are you?
We're good. Good to hear from you.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
We love it. We love it.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm a
you.
recovering MSNBC watcher.
Oh, well, I'm a recovering MSNBC talk show
See, I'm
host, so-
short-term MSNBC recoverer because when they kicked Ed Schultz,
yeah.
I had to go cold turkey on MSNBC.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy decision. I just still don't get it.
You're talking about the crazies.
Yeah.
I was watching David Pakman, and I believe it was Pakman, or it could have been Hartman, but they were talking about the debate levels of, the grade, as far as grade levels regarding GOP debaters.
Yeah.
And number one was Jeb Bush at a 9th grade debate level. Number two was Mr. K-Stick from Columbus.
Kasich, right.
Yeah. And at the very bottom of the list was 4th grade level, and guess who it was?
Donald Trump.
Yeah, and everybody else.
Well, wait, I think 4th grade may be too high for him.
I think so too, because they were talking about them whining and crying like little 3-year-olds. Well, that was the grade levels were 4 to 9. Now these are grown adult human beings that are debating. I mean,
right.
Is that crazy?
Well, it's crazy. And these are people who pretend to be ready to lead this country, right, to be president of the United States. It's
Well, they're
pretty scary.
pretenders.
Yeah, no, they are.
And that's giving the group a bad name.
But
I mean that's really giving the singing group a bad name.
Great reference there, Christine. Hey, good to hear from you. Welcome. That's a good idea. Everybody ought to abandon MSNBC and watch Free Speech TV. And listen to us on your local progressive talk radio station, of course. Good to hear from you, Christine. More calls coming up. President Obama, was it wrong for him to call people crazy? Hell no.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, Free Speech TV world, it's Mama and the Mooks here at the Stephanie Miller Show.
Hello. Good morning.
Seinfeld was about nothing. I think the Stephanie Miller Show is about everything.
A little bit
isn't it?
everything.
Yeah, a
It's
little bit.
kind of everything like thrown into a blender and we hit frappe.
Right.
With wine poured in.
Right. Senators, fart jokes, politics, pop culture, entertainment.
Drinking.
Drinking. Random stray thoughts. It's what all the hip kids are talking about.
Yep.
We have the smartest, funniest people in the country on this show, do we not?
We absolutely do.
Right?
Our sexy liberal army of callers call in every day to tell us all about it.
There you go. And some right-wingers that Travis particularly enjoys talking to.
They're my favorites.
Okay. You can watch us every weekday from 9 to noon Eastern or 6 to 9 Pacific, which is really early. But we still, we try to, we're still pulling in people like Rob Reiner, Lily Tomlin, Frangela, you name it. You can only get it here at the Stephanie Miller Show. Mama, Mooks, fancy celebrities.
And everything.
And fart jokes.
Free Speech TV.
How I've been affected by gun violence over the years is through deaths of friends and family members and associates.
When I was 5 years old, I was held at gunpoint in a home invasion.
I've gone to the juvenile detention centers, and I've met dozens of young kids, babies really, who have been affected by gun violence.
Directly, I've lost a few friends, but I think why this touches my heart is having children of my own.
You know, I've been at parties where, you know, I had just left the party and, you know, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, you know, I heard that, you know, somebody got shot and didn't make it.
There are a lot of people benefiting off of our pain, and it's time we do something.
I'm here to unload my investment because I think that it's important that we start kind of seeing where our money is going.
It's time to go to your financial advisor and demand that there are no gun investments in your 401k.
Even if you don't have investments, you can still help spread the word.
This is something everyone can do.
So if you push your people that have 401ks, it might be your grandma, it might be your cousin, this effort can make a big impact.
I'm unloading for my loved ones that I lost.
I'm unloading for my 18-year-old self.
I'm unloading my 401k for the future of my children.
I'm unloading.
I'm unloading
for my family and their future.
I'm unloading so that my daughter can grow up in a safe, loving world.
Unload and join the movement.
Use hashtag I'm unloading to pledge your support for gun-free investing.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, the Bill Press Show on this Wednesday, August 26th, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., right here in our nation's capital. Brought to you today by the American International Association of Machinists, the Machinist Union, President Tom Buffenbarger, leading the men and women of the Machinist Union, sharpening America's edge on the global economy, you bet. And you can find out more about their good work at their website, goiam.org. We're talking about President Obama and comments, Republicans seeming so outraged over his comments yesterday about, the day before yesterday, out in Las Vegas, about certain Republican senators who seem to oppose everything that he stands for, everything that he wants to get done. It was Congresswoman Diane Black from Tennessee who said the president should apologize for such incendiary comments. Have you heard Diane Black say anything, by the way, about the stuff that Donald Trump is saying?
It's a good question.
I haven't. But, I mean, the fact, look, let's just be honest. These people are crazies. And I thought the president was being rather mild, actually, in referring to them that way. Tom, up in Boston. Hey, Tom, what's going on?
Hi, Bill. Good morning, Bill.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Elise and Jamie.
Good morning.
Getting sick and tired of listening to Republicans bashing Obama. all the time, no matter what he proposes or no matter what he says, but they never give an alternative. And before, GOP used to stand for Grand Old Party.
Yeah, now it stands for what?
Guardians of Privileged. And I still believe you and Bernie should run on the Democratic ticket.
You keep talking like that, Tom, and, maybe I will.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to be out in Minneapolis on Friday, getting together with Bernie, and so we'll talk, Tom. We'll talk, and we'll let you know what goes on. Bernie, of course, thanks, Tom, for the call. Bernie will be out there addressing the Democratic National Committee. Their summer meeting in Minneapolis. So will Hillary Clinton and Martin O'Malley and Link Chafee, and I think Jim Webb, although the latest schedule I saw didn't have Jim Webb on the schedule. But he should be there. He's running. The one who has been invited but will not be attending this meeting is Vice President Joe Biden, who, of course, is not yet a candidate. But back to President Obama. Overboard. Did he go overboard? Was it really too much? I'm looking here. I wanted to read for you this comment from, here it is, from Congresswoman Diane Black from Tennessee. Quote, "That incendiary rhetoric cheapens our political discourse and ignores the real concerns that Americans of all political persuasions have about the implications of this far-reaching deal." Well, first of all, again, the president was not talking only about or exclusively about opponents of the Iran nuclear deal. He did not mention that at all. She's just assuming, like some reporters assumed. But secondly, I'd like to hear Diane Black say, okay, I'd like to ask her that question. What's wrong with this deal, by the way? What is wrong with 15 years of a nuclear-free Iran? What is wrong of reaching a historic international agreement on peace with China and Russia and Germany and France and the UK and the United States? We haven't seen that kind of unity for peace since, I don't know when, the end of World War II. We've seen it going to war. We haven't seen it for bringing nations together to say, no, we want a different approach. We want a diplomatic, peaceful solution to this crisis. We haven't seen that at all. And it's a historic agreement started by George W. Bush, continued by President Obama, completed by President Obama. So what's this Diane Black have? I mean, I think she's one of the crazies. Anita, down in San Antonio, Texas, did the president go too far, Anita? Was he wrong?
No. I do think it's funny that when the president uses the term crazies, everyone knows exactly who he's talking about. Even the crazies know he's talking about them. There's a reason why Donald Trump is leading in Republican polls, because a lot of their party is crazy.
Well, what you say is right. We know who he was talking about because the crazies are the one who react, right?
Of course,
the crazies.
Like if you call a skinny person a fatty, they don't get offended because they know they're not fat. When you call a crazy person crazy, they get offended because they're crazy and they know they're crazy.
Yeah. Very well said, Anita. Very well said indeed. Yeah.
Bill, we have some people weighing in on Twitter as well.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We have PhillyFan99.
Yes.
You can follow us on Twitter at BP Show. PhillyFan99 says the GOP, they're allowed to call Obama all kinds of names, get their panties in a twist when he calls them crazy. Yeah. They're very thin-skinned. Then we also have...
I remember some of the names. I don't want to repeat on the air. That Republican politicians have called President Obama. Yeah, including back to, remember, wasn't it Jim Wilson, is that his name, from South Carolina, called him a liar during the State of the Union address? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then we also have CSD Pagan weighing in saying, don't forget that McCain gave us the queen of crazies in Sarah Palin, which is a very, very good point.
The queen of crazies, indeed. Beverly's out in St. David, Illinois. Hi, Beverly. Hey, we got Beverly there? Yeah. Beverly.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
All right, everything's good here. What about in St. David?
We got a bunch of crazies around here. I've got my next door neighbor has a Tea Party flag on his front porch.
No.
Yes.
Oh, Beverly, I'm surprised you haven't ripped that flag down a long time ago.
I did once.
And what happened?
Well, he looked around to see who did it.
Yeah.
I was in my yard putting out my flowers. So, but they moved. So the Tea Party are moved.
All right. Well, good. You drove them out, huh? Yeah. So what do you think about this crazies, huh?
This man is so elegant and so honorable and has tried every which way to do what's best for this country. And crazies is a nice term for these people. Let's remember that Tom Cotton, who hasn't been a senator too long, had a letter sent to the Ayatollahs.
Yes.
47 senators, that's basically all of them.
Right.
So in my opinion, they're all treasonous. And the president is way above the fray.
Yeah, he could have called them traitors, right? You and I, there's some words we can't say on television or on Beverly, right? Right, but
true.
But traitors, right, might have been an appropriate term for some of these people, right?
You betcha.
Yeah, so you're right. Crazies. He was being kind to them when he called them crazies. Appreciate hearing from you, Beverly, as always, and you keep the peace there in your neighborhood there, Beverly. Paul, calling from Lucerne, California. Paul, what do you say?
I say the crazies owe the president an apology for the caucus room conspiracy, first of all. The night he was inaugurated, they swore to obstruct everything he did. There were some leading senators. Mitch McConnell was one of them.
Right. Yeah.
That's brutal. That's just, I've never seen a president get such disrespect before in my entire life, just from the color of his skin. It's disgusting, and it's racism.
Well, I wrote a book about it. We've talked about it, called The Obama Hate Machine. It's right. I mean, when I looked back, I couldn't find any president since Abraham Lincoln who has been so personally reviled as President Obama, who's been the object of more name-calling and personal attacks than any other president certainly in recent memory. And yet he just uses basically a harmless phrase like that, crazies, again, in the context of Harry and I were just talking. I mean, so you got two senators talking, and one of them uses a word like idiot, or uses a word like crazy, or uses a word, I don't know, let's go down, jerks, nutbags. I mean, whatever. I mean, there's two senators talking, right? And they can't use a word like that without the politically correct police getting all upset. But again, for these Republicans, the hypocrisy of attacking President Obama and demanding that he apologize for what they call an incendiary remark, and Donald Trump is out calling the Secretary of State a schmuck, and nobody says anything about it, and calling Mexican immigrants rapists, and calling women pigs, and he is the front runner, the face of the Republican Party.
And remember when McCain did it? McCain did it. He said, "Oh, it was a term of endearment."
Yes.
It wasn't really anything bad.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you say crazies,
McCain defended it when he used it as a term of endearment. Yeah. All right. In this case, way. No, President didn't go overboard at all. What he said was absolutely right. They are crazy. All right. Alex Roarty standing by from the National Journal Hotline. Joins us next with his take on the political news of the day. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour. Here we go. I've told you many times here on The Bill Press Show that long before I came to Washington, D.C., I was doing radio and TV in Los Angeles. My source for what was happening on the political front in Washington and around the country was the National Journal Hotline, which back in the day, a friend used to fax to me every day. That shows how long ago it was, operating by fax. A hotline is still one of my best sources of information about all the political news of the day. And Alex Roarty, chief political correspondent for the National Journal Hotline, joins us on our news line again this morning. Hey, Alex, how are you? What's going on?
Oh, not much, Bill. I'd like to let your listeners know we are available online now.
Is that right?
Not just over fax anymore.
Indeed, at nationaljournal.com. So, Alex, interesting news this morning on several fronts. Let's start with the fact the latest poll in New Hampshire, Bernie Sanders now up 7 points over Hillary Clinton. What's going on?
I think the Bernie surge continues. Look, New Hampshire is his perfect. It's basically his perfect state. He's from Vermont for one thing, and right now, Bernie Sanders' appeal seems to be strongest with a lot of white voters in particular. And I think that if you really were to sit down and take a hard look at this and ask yourself seriously, can Bernie Sanders beat Hillary Clinton? The question that he would have to answer is, can he grow his appeal beyond just white voters to, Latinos and African Americans, which obviously make up a very large portion of the Democratic primary. That said, he could still win New Hampshire without doing that. And it's I was really in the camp who thought Hillary would sweep all 50 states, all 50 primaries 6 months ago, and it's pretty remarkable how quickly the senator from Vermont has risen.
And on the Republican side, Donald Trump, 24 points ahead of his nearest competitor, John Kasich. Would you explain the same phenomenon?
I mean, it's amazing that we've had so many moments here where people have just assumed that Trump was the Trump phenomenon was going to deflate after he criticized John McCain after the first debate where he took on Megyn Kelly, and then later said some implied some offensive things about her.
Yeah.
And it hasn't happened. And now, he has the funny thing about Trump is he just leads in every poll. It doesn't matter where you're polling. It doesn't matter if it's national. It doesn't matter if it's Iowa or New Hampshire or just pick a state. He leads everywhere right now. Look, I still consider him a long shot to win the nomination, but it's impossible to ignore just how much of a commanding lead he has now, and it's hard not to think that this doesn't last well into the fall too.
Well, yeah, and as an indicator of that, last night, pardon me, as you know, CNN had been. I saw so many ads for this special, the Hurricane Katrina special, with Anderson Cooper scheduled for Tuesday night on CNN, and they postponed it in order to cover Donald Trump's news conference in Iowa, which turned out to be a pretty feisty news conference. They postponed this Hurricane Katrina special until tonight so they could talk about Donald Trump last night.
Well, it's interesting.
Nobody has a commanding presence like that.
No, they don't. And I was talking with a Republican strategist yesterday who thought really the key to Trump's success so far, it's not what the media has said about him. It's just that they keep talking about him. Like the aggregate amount of coverage here is so enormous that it amounts to one huge advertisement for Donald Trump. Now, this Republican who does not want to see Trump win the nomination thought that would eventually peter out. That essentially the shtick will get old. That CNN won't get a big ratings bump every time that they show him when it rolls around to November, and that's when he thinks Trump will fade. But we'll see. People have been wrong about him before when he's going to start fading in the polls.
Well, in our studio here, we have the morning shows, right? Or the cable morning, Fox and MSNBC and CNN up. And I can't tell you, watching the three of them, the sound is down. It's like the Donald Trump machine, right? Almost at any moment in every morning, Donald Trump is on all three screens. They're either talking about him or interviewing him.
I mean, and you look at it when you can look at the nightly newscast from CBS, NBC, and ABC, and that people add up how much time have they spent talking about each candidate. It's like there's Trump, and then everyone else in the field combined doesn't have as much time as him.
It was 36 in August. 36. I remember because we talked about it yesterday. 36 minutes and change for Donald Trump, and the closest one was Jeb Bush at 9 minutes.
Right.
And Ted Cruz, I think, had 3 seconds.
I mean, it's incredible, and if you look at it that way, look, I mean, no kidding that he's the prohibitive front runner right now. I mean, again, it's just an enormous amount of paid media for him.
Well, it's fun to watch, and always fun to talk to you about it. Alex, thanks so much for your time this morning. Got to run along. Good to have you with us.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, the National Journal Hotline. Check it out, nationaljournal.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan.
and the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, for 25 years, the Reverend Barry Lynn has been fighting to keep the wall of separation between church and state in this country, fighting for equality, secularism, and freedom of conscience. He's written a new book about it, and he'll be here in studio to tell us about it. At the top of the next hour, yeah, he shook him up on C-SPAN a couple of days ago. He'll shake him up here coming up in just a few minutes. And then we'll be joined a little bit later by Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota, one of my favorite members of the Senate. She also has a new book about her time and her battle to get into the ranks of the United States Senate. So lots more exciting stuff coming up. Stay with us here on the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people had lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got. A lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies. which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor's allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for. I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed to where we're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
I was not a member of Ashley Madison. I want you to know I can't speak for Peter Ogburn. When he comes back tomorrow, we'll ask him. Just leave it right there. Just stop the rumors right now. Wasn't me. I wasn't one of them. Hello, everybody. What do you say? It's good to see you. I'm sure a lot of men are saying that these days. No, honey, it wasn't me. They stole my ID. Good to see you today. Wednesday, August 26th. How about it? Welcome to the Bill Press Show, coming to you live nationwide, all across this great land of ours. We're there with you on the radio, number one, on your local progressive talk radio station, and on those two great radio apps, either iHeartRadio or TuneIn. They're free. Download them, and you can follow us on the radio wherever you are in this great land of ours. We're also there with you on television, on Free Speech TV, coast to coast, and worldwide on our video stream. Good morning, Ethiopia. We are there on TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. I'm very excited to welcome to the program a good friend and a colleague, a leader in the fight for separation of church and state in this country as the executive director of Americans United for Separation of Church and State, and author of the new book, God and Government, Reverend Barry Lynn. Reverend Lynn, good to see you.
It is very nice to be back here.
How about it?
Absolutely.
You had a good, little hot session on C-SPAN the other day.
We did have a little hot session.
I saw the news about it.
Yeah,
these people calling up saying, "You're no reverend."
That's right. And they got off on the abortion issue. They were talking about that constantly. But it's amazing. Ross Story did a piece about it, and then the ever-beloved Glenn Beck's The Blaze did a story. A little less flattering story yesterday about it. But I don't think you go on C-SPAN and get news stories written about it too often.
No.
So I hope they're happy with
All
this.
right, so did they call you crazy?
I don't think they called me crazy, but they called me a lot of other things. And at one point they said that the Holy Spirit should be pounding me as I spoke. And I unlike, let's say, Ben Carson, who said that when he decided to run for president, he felt the fingers of God. And he didn't go any more detail than that, but I didn't feel anybody pounding me. And 21%. There was a poll came out this past.
Fingers of God, a little God massage.
A little God massage. Yeah, 21% of Americans believe the Bible is literally true, which is considerably down from previous estimates. So
21% still.
Yep.
Wow. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And to our team here, of course. Peter Ogburn does have the day off. He'll be back tomorrow. Elisa Murphy.
Hey, good morning.
Running the show this morning with Jamie Benson here in a couple of capacities. Jamie, good to see you as well. And, of course, we depend on Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, to get that picture out there on Free Speech TV and on Free Speech and on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. Right. So down in Louisiana, right? You rob a store, particularly you rob a local favorite restaurant, you are in trouble with the sheriff. What's the name of the town?
St. Parish County.
It's in St. Parish County, Louisiana, and the little cafe was robbed, and the sheriff put out a video with this message. I love it.
So after a small-town Louisiana supermarket was
Jimmy
robbed
Fallon told us
this
about
week,
last night.
the local sheriff's department released a video calling out the guy who broke in. Check this out. This is real.
If you're the man that committed this felony, look at me, son. I'm talking to you. The sheriff likes Stelly's restaurant, and so do I. The food here is good, and the folks are friendly. We're going to identify you, arrest you, and put you in a small cell. After that, I'm going to have a cheeseburger here with fries and a Coke and leave a nice tip for the waitress. Meanwhile, your next meal will be served through a small hole in a cell door.
Yeah, I'm going to have a cheeseburger here and French fries and a Coke, and I'm going to leave a big tip for the waitress. Yes,
I hope that guy runs for president.
Isn't he running, that guy, that sheriff?
No, but he should.
Oh, that's the governor. I keep getting confused.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, we got it. Let's talk about here with Reverend Barry Lynn and the latest in the religious wars of the country. But first...
This is the Full Court
Just a couple
Press.
of the stories for you on this Wednesday morning. So, Bill, you may not have an Ashley Madison account, but Hunter Biden might.
No, he didn't.
The 45-year-old son of Joe Biden denied yesterday that a email address that belongs to him was linked to an Ashley Madison account. Bill, can you guess which conservative website dug this up?
The Blaze.
Not The Blaze.
Oh.
We're actually going to be close this time. Breitbart. Breitbart had their exclusive up and said, we finally found the infidelity from Hunter Biden, as if we were all waiting. Hunter explained that his email address must have been compromised and that he no longer uses that address. Blamed it all on the media.
Well, if Breitbart says it, you know it's not true.
You know it's not true.
Fun Home is a popular graphic novel featuring a young girl coming out as a lesbian and learning her father is gay. So a lot of heavy stuff there, but it's critically acclaimed. The novel is featured on Duke University's Common Experience Summer Reading Program for incoming freshmen. So they encourage new students to read this along with several other titles. It has, of course, caused a bit of a controversy.
I'll bet.
Among Christians. One freshman student with self-professed Christian moral beliefs said, quote, Duke did not seem to have people like me in mind. It was like Duke didn't know we existed, which surprises me. It's funny, LGBT and people of color have been saying this for years.
Yeah, right. Now it's flipped,
Now it comes
right?
back.
Now it's flipped.
Yeah.
I wonder if was the incoming student who complained about this in the Duggar family?
It
by
must
any
have
chance?
been.
No, but I'm sensitive about this idea of dumping a huge amount of data into the public record. But when it comes to the Duggars, the holier-than-thou Duggars, I have an exception, and I say, good, we should know.
Put it all out there.
Put it all out.
A 12-year-old in Taiwan tripped and fell over the weekend. There's more.
Yes.
He tripped and fell directly into a $1.5 million painting. Broke it. Literally put his hand through it when he was breaking his fall. The museum where the incident took place, luckily, will not hold him financially responsible. The painting is insured and will be headed back to Italy for restoration this week. But, gosh, his stomach just must have dropped a million feet. Like,
whoa. Yeah.
Can you imagine being responsible for
That's
that?
why in the museums they have that little thing. You're not supposed to get too
That's
close,
true.
right? Not that close. All right. Yes, Jamie, thank you so much. Here we go. 25 years of fighting for equality, secularism, and freedom of conscience. Are we getting any closer to just accepting the fact that church and state ought to be separate paths?
Yeah, this is not a let's despair forever book. This is a book that tries to take a measured look through my eyes of the last 25 years or so of working on this stuff. And I think the answer is yes. There are some big issues that, at least in the courts, are gone. Like, we're not fighting creationism in the courts. That doesn't mean everybody accepts the evidence for evolution, but it does mean...
Good point. We don't hear as much about that battle.
And frankly, prayer amendments, after Reagan lost his opportunity to get a school prayer amendment passed, and then Newt, I used to be famous, Gingrich did that same thing, tried to get it passed in the House, failed miserably. It's pretty much on the back burner, even of the religious right. Last time I heard Senator Ted Cruz give a speech, he talked about, we're going to bring prayer back to the schools. And of course, the audience of right-wingers all applauded, but they know this has no legs anymore. So that's the good news from the past. Good news from the future, millennials, even evangelical millennials, people between 20 and 30, who self-describe themselves as evangelicals, have very different views from their parents on a lot of these issues. By 7% more than their parents or their grandparents, they accept the evidence for evolution. 44% of them were in favor of marriage equality even before the Supreme Court decision. So there's a lot to be said. And when I go to these religious right gatherings, as I often do in the fall, and pollsters who work a lot with evangelicals like the Barna Group, when they come up and do their honest reporting, it's like a skunk has appeared at the picnic, because the parents there do not want to hear this. They do not want to hear that they've lost touch with their own children, because that means the next generation, the trajectory for this kind of mixing of religion and politics is simply not there. That's the good news. Bad news is, as you know, millennials tend not to vote. 21%, I think, is the percentage that voted in the midterm elections. It's so bad. It's the worst group you can find for voting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, millennials can't really be taken seriously if they're not.
No, they have to vote.
If they have to vote.
They have to vote.
Otherwise, people just will ignore them.
That's right.
So, well, but to your point about things getting better, there is still an alarming percentage of Americans who believe that we are a Christian nation founded by Christians and on the Judeo-Christian principles you and I have talked about so many times. And they're dead wrong, but they don't get it.
They're dead wrong, and they are very powerful within the Republican Party. They have a tremendous impact on Republican primaries, which is why everybody all of a sudden is either said God told them directly or indirectly they'd be the next president.
Yeah, I'm sure
and
Ben Carson's not the only one who felt God's
no, he's
fingers.
not. You know, when John Kasich was asked in April on Meet the Press, are you going to run for president? He said, I'm going to see what the Lord wants me to do with the rest of my life. Well, I guess we know. God must have said, or at least John Kasich thinks God said, you should run for president. Somebody's wrong. There's a failure of communication somewhere.
And we know that Ted Cruz is the one who really got the word from God.
He got the word.
I mean, he seems to be bent on capturing the evangelical vote and doing anything to get it.
You know, he announced that he would be running for the presidency at Liberty University at that mandatory meeting where if you didn't go, you were fined $10. They handed out little American flags. Now, Bernie Sanders is going to go, but I doubt that they're going to be as happy about that. You know, the first time I've ever been invited to Liberty University, I'm going to be there the first week in September for a debate at the law school, but I've never been invited. Robertson's people at Regent University have had me down there a couple of times, but I guess Jerry Jr. must be a little more open than his dad had been because his dad, you know, never wanted me to come.
Some of the to my chagrin, his father used to always refer to me as his favorite Democrat, and every time he would say it, I would say, "Jerry, don't say that. I don't want to be your favorite." These were back in the
the Crossfire days.
Back in the Crossfire days,
he
right.
was. He and I were on Crossfire a number of times.
I know.
And one time,
it made for great television. I have to tell you.
Novak, I think, asked him once if I would be allowed to preach at Liberty University or at Thomas Road Baptist Church, and Falwell said, "I would not let Barry Lynn preach on a street corner anywhere near my church."
Well, there were people who called into C-SPAN who said the very same thing, that you should not have Reverend in front of your name.
That's right. They did. It's unfortunate. I don't think they realize.
Why are Christians so intolerant?
I think they're so intolerant because they dislike everybody that is not exactly like themselves. So anybody that is a progressive Christian, anyone who is Jewish, I have a whole chapter in God and Government. Does the religious right hate everybody? Answer, yes. I mean, they hate atheists, they hate progressive Christians, they hate women. It's just, and this is not just the top-level people, unfortunately. I mean, the people who call in to C-SPAN or call in to some shows I did last night, I mean, these people are so angry, and they're so desperate to save not the heart of Christianity, but a literal interpretation of the Bible. This is so important to them. And when you say, but wait a minute, do you literally think that pi, the mathematical symbol pi, is equal to exactly 3 because that's what the Bible says? They say, well, they didn't have great measurement tools back then. I don't want to get on an airplane, and I'm quite confident you don't either, engineered by somebody who thinks that pi is exactly 3 because all the gears will be wrong. The
I
plane
must
will
say,
go out.
through my career, in terms of response, either by telephone calls or by mail or people I meet in the street, I never experienced such hatred, except from people who started out by calling themselves Christian, identifying themselves as Christian.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking,
why? Yeah, and
there's,
how?
There's a disconnect here between Jesus and his followers in the way they treat their fellow human beings.
Yeah, we have a whole wall called the Wall of Shame in our office. It consists of the ugliest possible emails, generally included a reference, either a Bible reference or the statement that you just made, as a Christian. And then they go, and it's vulgar and it's filled with misspellings, and I can't tolerate that.
God and government. We're still trying to sort it out. Barry Lynn's been leading the fight for the last 25 years here with us. His book, We'll have a link up on our website. It must read, God and Government. Thank you for this copy. I can't wait to get into it. I will be right back with the Reverend Barry Lynn. Show him some love today, or you can take him on if you want as well. 866-55-PRESS. Not as bad as you did on C-SPAN, I hope.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Officer, were you the one who arrested me? Gonna shake my hand? So I got invited to host a vigil called Carry the Names. And that's what they were doing, carrying the names of the people who were victims of deadly police force. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Akai Gurley. I got a motion from Dragonfly from Stop Shopping Choir, and I started preaching. I preached up a storm as best I could, but about a minute and a half into my sermon, the place was flooded with police, Homeland Security, National Guard, state troopers, and I was pushed over and handcuffed so fast, down in the jail, down in the basement. Before you know it, I was out the door, put in prison overnight. The next morning, I'm in court. The same thing happens. I'm just rushed out of there. Then our lawyer, Wiley Steckler, gives me this iPhone. And there, in black and white, in the Gothamist, a popular paper, is this charge by Adam Lisberg, the MTA law enforcement spokesperson for this grand place. His quote is that I, Reverend Billy, physically attacked a police officer. Unbelievable. The feeling of being robbed of my work and life and identity, just the fiction. I did not touch anybody. I did not look. I know how to do this. I'm trained in nonviolence. I did not do anything. It was right here. It was right here. It happened right here. I was simply arrested while I was speaking and taken away, and that's it. The cold feeling in my city, the city that I love, that city spokespersons whose salary I pay for with my taxes, that they would say this. I can just feel the rending apart of the community, that we are not that close. We're not. They are willing to say this, and they think that they can just say anything about anybody and get away with it. So we have something in the Church of Stop Shopping called radical forgiveness. Amen? I forgive the police. We gotta love them too. Cops and bankers love their mothers, but I'll stay radical. Love their brothers. We gotta love them too. But we'll wake up every morning forgiving each other, reaching out, touching, telling stories, having humor, being in a community together, sharing our children, sharing the streets, sharing the climate, being in this city together. But forgiving each other, being grateful to each other, helping each other out, living together, living together. I got a daughter just turned 4. What do we do in the superstore? What do we do with the blood and the gore? The water's rising through our door. Love our children too. Love our children too. Amen. Earth-alleluia.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour, God and Government. Important issue, important new book out by the Reverend Barry Lynn, joining us in studio this morning. Barry, let's say a quick hello to Ron out in Elgin, Illinois. Hello, Ron. What do you say?
Good morning. Good morning, all. I consider myself a progressive Christian, and because of that, I can mix my politics and my religion, such as, so for example, what would Jesus do? He would support women's rights. He would support gay, lesbian rights. He would want to raise the minimum wage. So I don't see a problem from my standpoint mixing politics and religion because of my progressive liberal Christian roots.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ron. What do you say to that?
No, it's a good point, Ron, and I think all of us have the right to make decisions about anything, about any policy issue on the basis of what we believe is a matter
Based
of
on our
Scripture.
faith.
Of course. But when government comes to make the decisions, that's where, better have an answer other than this is the way Jesus would operate. In fact, on C-SPAN the other day,
you have to do it
You have
this
to
way.
do it my way.
Right.
You have to do it my way from the moment of conception until the moment of so-called natural death and pretty much every minute in between, because that's what my Scripture says. Unfortunately, we have a huge number of politicians, Ron, who do it that way. They take their own constitutional interests and put them secondary to their scriptural understanding. And as a government official, that's a no-no under our Constitution.
Right. And that's what Americans United is all about.
Absolutely.
Americans United. I've been a long-time member and encourage you to join as well. AU, isn't it AU.org? AU.org. How has just about a minute, how's the Obama administration stacked up on this issue?
They get a little nervous when it comes to talking about religion or when it comes to talking about sex. And I think when it comes to job discrimination, they have one terrible fatal flaw, and that is that the Obama administration has not, now 6.5 years into the administration, has not removed from the regulatory framework of the country George Bush's old executive order that allows you to get government money for your so-called secular organizational whatever you're doing, helping the homeless, feeding the hungry. You can still discriminate on the basis of religion, even with tax dollars in the very program that's getting funded. 130 groups last week, every women's group, every LGBT group, every civil rights and civil liberties group sent another letter to this administration saying, fix it. It's not that hard to do. That's a problem.
And President Obama has not yet done that.
He has not done it.
Well, you know what? He's got a year left. We've got to keep the pressure on.
I know we do.
And I know you'll be out there fighting
We
the
will.
fight. The Reverend Barry Lynn, Americans United, AU.org, the book God and Government. Go get it. Go read it. Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we are on it's not Thursday yet. On a Wednesday morning, August 26th, The Bill Press Show. We're live in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, our studio on Capitol Hill. And we're brought to you today by the International Association of, count them up, sheet metal, air, rail, and transportation workers. Put them all together, and they make up the SMART Union. Good men and women of the SMART Union under President Joseph Sellers, giving a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. Check out their website and their good work at smart-union.org. A lot of news on the political front today, both on the Republican and on the Democratic side. Nobody better to keep track of it than the chief political correspondent for Vox, a good friend, John Allen, often in studio with us today, but today joining us on our news line. Good morning, John. How's it going?
It's going well. I've been rejected for any unions or other associations with the acronym SMART, so if you can help me get into one of those at some point, I'd appreciate it.
That's like, remember when they dedicated the intelligence or the CIA headquarters to George W. Bush, that Barbara Bush said she never thought you would hear her husband's name and the word intelligence in the same sentence. I know people who every time they pass it on the George Washington Parkway make that joke. Yeah. Well,
but look, I mean, I'd say George H.W. Bush is looking pretty smart these days. It's a matter of contrasts. Within families.
Yeah, yes, among presidential candidates for sure. All right, I want to ask you first of all, because we keep thinking of you as the co-author of the great book HRC, our Hillary Clinton expert. The latest poll shows Bernie Sanders up 7 points over Hillary Clinton in New Hampshire. Is this a sign of trouble for her, or just the fact that this is Bernie's neighboring state?
Well, I think it's a sign of trouble for her in New Hampshire. I mean, and let me be the first to say, forget the margin of error. It's a five-point margin of error, which means, in theory, she could actually be up a couple of points on Sanders and have the same result. The fact that he's in the same galaxy as she is, it should be troublesome for her campaign in terms of New Hampshire. But I believe New Hampshire sends about 32 delegates to the Democratic Convention, which has, I think, a couple thousand. I have to go look at my numbers again, but it's a very small percentage of the Democratic convention set. It would be embarrassing to her to lose New Hampshire, especially after it was a big victory for her in 2008. But she's up, I think, about 30 points in Iowa, according to the latest poll. And we haven't seen polls in the big states that send Democratic delegates to the convention.
Now, the last time you were in, I asked you this question. I'm going to ask you again. The email, whatever we want to call it, scandal or story, still hasn't gone away. Is this just a media creation or a serious problem for the Clinton campaign and for her?
I think it's a serious problem for the Clinton campaign, and I would say one of the ways that you can see it being a serious problem is the way in which she talks about it in seemingly legalistic terms. This is not a situation where she's going out and saying what's best for her politically, necessarily. I mean, the best thing for her politically would have been to say, I totally screwed this up, I shouldn't have done it. It was a mistake on my part, not just because it's come back to bite me, but because the whole idea of shielding my email from everybody was a bad
She's
play.
never said that.
No.
Yeah.
And she won't. And she won't for two reasons. Number one, it's not in her nature, and number two, a sort of full admission that she's wrong could be potentially bad if, and I still think this is a very, very, very small possibility, but if she were to end up in legal jeopardy over it.
Do you attribute, let me put it this way, the difficulties with the email scandal to the news that Joe Biden is taking this more seriously and might even jump in, and do you think he will?
I think that if Joe Biden gets into the race, he would have found an excuse to do so anyway. I think Joe Biden's wanted to be president of the United States probably since he was in kindergarten, certainly for the last 28 years at least, and has tried every route possible to that presidency. So I think, there are people close to Biden who want him to run. There are people close to him who very much don't want him to run. But I don't think that the ship of state is leaking from anywhere but the top in terms of all of this drumbeat of possibility of Joe Biden running. He wants to run.
Well, I know you weren't there at the briefing Monday, but you, I'm sure, followed it when Josh Earnest said, to my surprise, frankly, number one, that repeated something he said before. The President Obama believes naming Joe Biden as his running mate was the smartest political decision ever made. Two, that it was a smarter decision, he admitted, than appointing Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State. Three, that nobody had more experience than Joe Biden. Nobody had more experience than Joe Biden. And four, that there's a possibility the president might even endorse in a Democratic primary.
It was an amazingly forthcoming answer from Josh. I was talking to my father about this, who covered the White House for UPI a long time ago, and he said he was listening to the briefing and started to hear Josh's answer and just kind of perked up. He said, wait a second, that's not what the answer's supposed to be. I'd asked Jay Carney in February of 2014 how the president could not endorse Joe Biden if he ran, given that he'd gone out and told the country twice that Biden was the next best person to be president.
Right.
And got a much more anodyne answer from Carney. One that was positive about the vice president, of course, but not as effusive as Earnest. I thought there were a couple things going on in that answer. Number one, it's possible the president could endorse. He didn't say who he would endorse.
Right.
Number two, he said it was the best political decision that Obama, or smartest political decision Obama had made, not necessarily the smartest decision.
Yeah, right.
So sort of an admission there about the extent to which Joe Biden may have been a choice of. Even though the White House will maintain that he was the choice because he was the best person to serve in the presidency, I think maybe an admission there that that he balanced the ticket probably also there within Josh's answer. But I also think, I heard when I first heard it, I thought, wow, Josh is really going overboard to be supportive of the vice president. It sounds to me like maybe the president of the United States could endorse Joe Biden. And then I went back and read the transcript again. And there was a difference in the words that Josh used, and Josh is a pretty upbeat guy, and it may be that he sounded a little more pro-Biden than the words he used were. But I look back at the words, and what he said was nobody, and I'm not quoting, I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said nobody knows the rigors of running for president better than Joe Biden, which might have actually been a warning to Joe Biden that he should know that he can't win. I'm sorry, it took a long time to get that. May have also been part of what was going on in Josh's answer.
All right. Now, we can't talk politics without talking about the Donald, right? I mean, the latest, right, is, first of all, he continues. He called John Kerry yesterday a schmuck. He attacks Jorge Ramos at his news conference. Yet it seems this guy, if anybody's a Teflon candidate, it doesn't matter, does it? Almost whatever.
No,
he says.
in some ways, there's a real genius to the way that he goes after people. You call John Kerry a schmuck, and you're saying that basically at the time where John Kerry's pushing this Iran deal that the pro-Israel hardliners in the U.S. don't like. Boy, that's a pretty good message for Florida Republicans.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you're speaking pretty much right into that hardline pro-Israel base in Florida. Particularly in the older Jewish community down there. So it's interesting to watch the language he uses. I think we sometimes we give him too little credit for thinking about what he's saying.
Did he do himself any damage by taking on Jorge Ramos?
I don't think so. I think, it's pretty clear that most Latinos despise Donald Trump. There was a poll out yesterday. And I thought there was an interesting thing sort of at the end where he brought him back in and tried to make nice, which showed some basic humanity on Trump's level, I think.
He brought him back in and let him ask his question, and then interrupted his question and basically.
But look, I don't want to jump on other journalists, and everybody's got their own way of doing things. But I mean, that's not the way you conduct yourself at a White House press conference or any other sort of organized press conference. I mean, there are different types of press interactions. This one was clearly sort of an ordered one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go out there too far to defend the way Ramos approached it.
You know what? I totally agree. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I mean, I have to tell you, if I stood up at a White House news conference, right, and just started shouting out a question to Barack Obama, I'd be escorted out of that room pretty damn fast too, or so would you, right?
Yeah, I mean, if the president would probably try to get you to relax, and you probably would. But if it went on for a while, you'd probably be escorted out, and then you'd probably have a conversation with somebody in the White House Correspondent Association about whether you should still have credentials.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have to do press conferences. There's nothing, there's this whole sort of, I've been, hearing commentators and seeing on the internet this whole idea of freedom of speech, and Ramos says freedom of speech, and all, freedom of the press, I apologize, got freedom of the press. And, I mean, that would be true if it was about preventing him from printing something or preventing him from going somewhere, public as a general rule. But it doesn't force Donald Trump to do interviews or to be berated.
No, I sort of have a rule that any time the journalist becomes the story, right, rather than reporting the story, then there's something a little out of whack. And that was my take on the Jorge Ramos thing yesterday as well. All right, finally, I have to ask you, I'm going out to Minneapolis tomorrow to be there for the DNC meeting on Friday when Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, Jim Webb, Martin O'Malley, and Lincoln Chafee all address the Democrats. Are you going to be there?
I will not be there. But I am sad to miss Lincoln Chafee and Jim Webb.
I know. That's the reason I'm going. Come on. All right. Well, I was just hoping you're going to be there.
Are you going to find the one thing on which progressives can hang their hat if they choose to support Jim Webb?
Is there one thing?
I don't think so. I mean, other than being against the Iraq War, but he comes at it from a different angle, I think.
I'll be looking for it. Sorry you're not going to be there. I'd buy you a beer. We'll do that some other time. All right. Hey, John, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Take care, Bill.
As always, John Allen does a great job. Chief political correspondent for Vox, Vox.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour on a Wednesday, August 26. Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota joining us in the next hour, as well as Seth Goldman, who is the TeaEO of the great brand Honest Tea, with their new offerings for the summer. He'll be here at the top of the hour, and then Amy Klobuchar joining us a little bit later. Pardon me, we talked with Donald Trump there. With Donald Trump. Come on, Bill. We talked with John
Would
Allen.
you like us to arrange that? Because we can.
Yeah, we could. I'm sure he'd be glad to call in. Talk with John Allen about the Donald Trump exchange, if you want to call it that, with Jorge Ramos, the great anchor for Univision yesterday. It was at a news conference out in Dubuque, Iowa, a rare news conference for Donald Trump. When the news conference starts, okay, and there are all the reporters are seated there, and Donald Trump calls on Chip Reed, who is a great reporter for CBS News, Evening News, who was right in the front row in the middle. He calls on Chip Reed. Jorge Ramos is in the front row off to the side at the end of the row to Donald Trump's right after Trump calls on Chip Reed. Jorge Ramos stands up and starts asking his question, and here's how that exchange started.
Who's next? Yeah, please. Excuse me, sit down. You weren't called. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Go ahead.
I have the right to ask the question.
No, you don't. You haven't been called.
I have the right to ask the question.
Go back to Univision.
No.
What John Allen said, I think, is right. You can hear Jorge Ramos says, I'm an immigrant. I've got a right to ask a... Well, yes, you do. But like it or not, the way press conferences go, and I go to them all the time, particularly at the White House, is you raise your hand, you get called on, or you don't. But if he calls on, or she calls on somebody else, if you stand up and just start shouting out a question, you're not going to get very far. And Jorge Ramos didn't get very far. He continues, and he is, you'll hear, escorted out.
You cannot deport 11 million people. You cannot build a 1,900-mile wall. You cannot deny citizenship to children in this country.
Sit down, please.
With those ideas,
you weren't called.
I'm a reporter, and don't touch me, sir. Don't touch me, sir.
Now, I must say, to his credit, Trump isn't calling him any names there.
That's
he just said, sit down. Come on, sit down. You weren't called on. I'll get to you later. He didn't say that, but that's what he meant. Sit down. And so Jorge Ramos was escorted out by security for disrupting the news conference, if you will. And then Jorge Ramos explains that somebody did come to him, and they did invite him back in so he could ask his question. Here's Mr. Ramos.
After about maybe 5 to 10 minutes, somebody from his team told me that if I was interested in going back to the room and ask him a question. And I said yes. So I went back, and suddenly I was granted the permission to ask him a question, and I did.
And he came back in. He asked his question. Donald Trump didn't really answer his question. But, of course, this has become the whole thing. Donald Trump attacking a reporter. Donald Trump attacking an anchor. Donald Trump attacking a Latino. Look, I didn't think we saw a good side of either one of them. So what did it all prove? It proved that Donald Trump can be belligerent and can be rude. And is that anything new? I think we already knew that. So it just showed Donald Trump being Donald Trump. And I think we also saw there that Jorge Ramos can be a glory hound himself who is seeking to be the star of the show and seeking to make a headline and to make news himself. And why does that surprise us about any TV anchor? So as far as I'm concerned, the whole thing was kind of a non-story. When we come back, what's on the president's agenda today? We'll let you know. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, indeed. Hour number 3 coming up. And remember, if you want to follow hour number 3, like right away, you got to go over to TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Otherwise, we'll catch up with you on Free Speech TV at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific. The great Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota will be along. We'll see. She has endorsed Hillary Clinton for president. We'll find out what she's going to do if Joe Biden runs. We'll also be joined by Seth Goldman, who is the TeaEO of that great product, Honest Tea, with some new summer iced teas. How about it? Stay tuned. Hour number 3.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like a bag?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
With 3 minutes to go before the top of the hour, I invite you to stay tuned for Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota in the next hour, as well as Seth Goldman, president and TeaEO of that great company, Honest Tea, with their new offerings for the summer. President Obama today and the vice president get the daily briefing at about 10 o'clock. And then this afternoon, the president will do one of the things he loves doing, welcoming a big sports team to the White House today. About noon, it'll be the WNBA champions from Phoenix, the women members of the Phoenix Mercury team. And then this afternoon, the president will be giving a whole series of interviews to local TV anchors about the Iran nuclear deal. We will be briefing with Josh Earnest at noon at the White House. Tell you all about it tomorrow. Stay tuned for Amy Klobuchar
is the Bill
and
Press
Honesty.
Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together. And it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this, because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
President Obama refuses to apologize for calling some of his Senate opponents crazies. Why should he apologize? They are crazy. Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? It's Wednesday, August 26th. So good to see you today. Thank you for joining us wherever you happen to be in this great land of ours. Whether you're listening on the radio or watching on television, we appreciate your joining us this morning for our roundup of the news of the day from Washington, what's happening here in our nation's capital, around the country, and around the globe. We'll tell you and look forward to hearing from you about what it all means to you. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show or on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. It is summer. It's time for a good, refreshing, cold, refreshing drink, maybe. Can't do any better as far as I'm concerned than a good cup or glass of or bottle of iced tea. And how many different flavors you can get from Honest Tea, I don't know, but we'll find out. The president and CTO, our good friend Seth Goldman, is in for his annual summer visit to the Bill Press Show. Hey, Seth, it's so good to see you again.
Good morning, Bill. So fun
Thank
to be
you.
with you.
And all these great products you brought in this morning. I'm sure Cyprian can get them all here on the video cam. I'll line them all up. I'm not sure I can finish all of these in this one session, but I'll do my best here. And you join our team, of course, of Elisa Murphy, Jamie Benson, and Cyprian Bolding, bringing the show to you. You know, the war between Donald Trump and Megyn Kelly just won't seem to stop. I mean, he can't help himself. But I must say, I think yesterday you'd have to say Megyn Kelly, score Megyn Kelly, 1-0, because she wasn't mean at all. But last night she got in a little lick at Donald Trump when she wished her husband a happy birthday.
Message for a man many of you have come to know well, a gentleman, a class act. A smart, kind, strong man. The kind of person who makes you want to be better, do better. My husband, Doug Brunt. Yay, who was born on this day in 1971. I know, thank you. And is with our 3 kids right now at the beach. Happy birthday, Duggar. I bought him a Donald Trump tie.
Got him a Donald Trump tie for his birthday. No, whether she really did or not. But you knew when she started out by talking about a gentleman, a class act. She wasn't necessarily talking about Donald Trump.
She should have bought him a hat, though. The Make America Great Again hat.
Make America Great Again hat. Wow, how about it? So Seth Goldman here with us for the first half hour, and then we'll be talking with Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
The big stories of the day. Just a couple of other ones here on this Wednesday morning. If you are an Amazon Prime member, live in Seattle, and love alcohol, it's very unlikely you're going to leave your house this week. I'll tell you why. Yesterday, Amazon added the delivery of beer, wine, and liquor to their Prime Now service for their Seattle subscribers. We'll see if this extends throughout the country. If you are a Prime member in Seattle, you can have booze delivered to your house in 2 hours for free, or in 1 hour for $7.99. So you don't have to do anything anymore. You don't have to leave your house at all. Booze comes directly to you.
It's amazing.
Wow. What about traffic?
Well,
that's a good question.
He'll find a way. He'll find a way to get the liquor to you.
Drones.
A South American man filed this past week and quickly lost a lawsuit against Sarco, which operates the Church's Chicken chain in Puerto Rico. A few years ago, this man came up with an idea for a new chicken sandwich. A couple of years after that, Sarco protected themselves and trademarked the name of this chicken sandwich. The man then accused them of stealing, quote, his intellectual property. The judge did not agree. He listed 8 different categories, none of which include chicken sandwiches. So intellectual property is not going to do anything for a chicken sandwich here.
I think it'd be hard to copyright a chicken sandwich, but I don't know.
Sorry for that guy. Massillon, Ohio is the home of the Washington High School Tigers, and they take their mascot game to the next level. They've had a live tiger cub at every football game for the past several years. It's a controversial item here. A new law in Ohio, prompted after a suicidal man released a bunch of exotic animals back in 2011. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do, right.
Basically, the law is going to require school boosters to prove the tiger is going to be able to live in an accredited facility after his playing career is over. The football season starts Thursday. It starts tomorrow. The boosters still don't have a legal answer, so we're not going to see a tiger cub unless something happens today. They've also attracted a new opponent in the nonprofit One World Conservation, who believe a football game is a terrible environment for a young tiger cub. I would agree.
I would totally agree. Yeah.
A lot of schools and universities are dealing with this as well.
This whole idea of having exotic animals as pets, no.
Time to put it in the past.
All right, yeah. Hope we never see that tiger cub belongs in the jungle. Seth, I want to move that microphone just a little bit closer. Sure. It's good to see you again. Happy summer. You're having a good summer.
We're having a great summer. It's been
all
really
kinds
fun.
of new products and some of the same old favorites, right?
Yeah.
Plus, let's start with, you do this every year. You have in the past, at any rate. You have this honesty surveys.
We call it the National Honesty Index.
Okay.
And it's our way to check in and see how honest Americans are. So we go out to dozens of cities around the country.
You did it again this year?
We did it again in dozens of cities around the country. We set up racks of tea, and we put up a sign that says $1 a bottle honor system. And then we just step back and watch.
You put it like in a public place.
Yeah,
like
exactly. Heavily trafficked. So in D.C., DuPont Circle. In Boston, we did it at near Faneuil Hall. In New York, we did it at South Street Seaport. So, every places where there's a lot of people moving through, you don't have there's enough anonymity of crowds that if you wanted to take a bottle, you could do it and no one would sort of point you out. And we don't have any uniformed personnel. We don't have any visible cameras. So there really is
but no, I was going to ask you, no visible camera.
What we do, we have to track the results. So what we do, we have people, usually some of our summer interns, and they are sitting on a park bench or somewhere nearby, and they have either an iPad or a clipboard, and they're tracking the results. So they follow who,
How many bottles do you put up?
Oh, well, over the course of the summer, there's thousands of bottles because we're doing it in all these different cities. But there's racks. There's easily 100 bottles out at any one time.
At any one time?
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. And because we want to make the drinks attractive, we're keeping them cold, so we're rotating the stock. It's a complex maneuver because we're doing it in these dozens of cities, and our team does a great job.
And basically, you try to find out who's honest and who's not.
How do people act when they think no one's looking?
I'm afraid to ask.
Well, that's what's so interesting, Bill. So right, what's your going into it? What's your guess? What percent of Americans do you think would pay for a bottle? Would be honest. It's $1 a bottle.
70.
That's exactly what people guess. That's the most common guess I hear. 94% this year paid. So isn't that refreshing? So that's
good for us.
Exactly.
God bless America.
It is. It's one of those things that kind of makes you feel like, you know what? You listen to if you believe all the politicians, there's half of this country is people full of unethical people.
94%.
But 94% of Americans, and that's a consistent result. We've seen
one reason I guess is because I don't know what this retails for. I mean, I've bought it many times.
Yeah.
But $1, so
it's a relatively good deal, right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But free is a pretty good deal too.
Free's a better deal.
Well, there's no reason you couldn't just take the bottle. Except for your conscience in this case, because it's almost an invitation.
I find that stunning, 94%.
But it's consistent. We've done it now 6 years in a row.
Yeah.
And the results have just
in the 90s.
Always in the 90s. We also find that women are always more honest than men.
No.
Yeah, it is.
Really?
I refuse to believe that.
It's 2 percentage points, but it's consistent.
Yeah.
So 95% of women were honest, 93% of men.
All right. Now I'm sure the results are not the same in every city.
That's correct. Okay. So we start to see some patterns.
So Philadelphia must be the most honest city.
Well, it's funny. Philadelphia did really well this year. 97% in Philadelphia.
That's why the Pope is going there. 97 in Philadelphia?
97% in Philadelphia.
Whoa.
Yeah. Now, there was one city this year, 100%. That was Atlanta, Georgia.
Really?
Yeah. And unfortunately, there was one city that was
Jimmy Carter. He's preaching that love down there and preaching that forgiveness. All right, Washington
D.C. actually middle of the pack this year, so at 94%. So that's good.
Oh,
that's right.
okay.
Although
surprising.
With
all the crooks here in Washington, it surprises.
So for the first time ever, we did have nationally. We've never seen someone actually reach into the money box and take the money themselves. And that happened in Washington.
Oh, no.
Oh, really?
So that was, a first. But unfortunately,
that's worse. That's a lot worse than taking the bottle.
Yeah.
Reached into
took the money.
First time.
Yeah, first time. So.
Can I ask, was this when Congress was in session?
I guess Congress was in session. Now, we did it at DuPont Circle, a little, away from Capitol Hill, but that was unfortunate.
I bet it was still a lobbyist. Or a member of Congress. They could have made their way over there. They heard there was
fundraiser.
They heard there was free money somewhere.
Who says there's no such thing?
All right, what was the worst city?
So for the second year in a row, Providence, Rhode Island came in last.
Really?
Yeah, 83%. So it's still pretty good. If you were expecting 70%, 83 is not bad. We did have somebody in Providence who paid with $1 million bill, which would have been very generous.
Oh yeah, accept it. Yeah, right.
So we didn't count that as a payment.
The Providence used to have a reputation for mafia connection. But I thought that was long gone.
Well, it's unfortunate. But like I say, 83% still better than I think most people expected, the whole population to be. So to me, one of the good messages here is you really, we're more trustworthy than we give ourselves credit for as a population. And I think if you can look at it that way, you can build better communities, put a little more trust in each other.
Absolutely. But you can see, I think there could be a practical application to this, not just a one-time, once-a-year sort of test, right? But I don't know, in stores.
In stores. The only challenge, of course, is
newspapers or kind of whatever. If people have the right
farm stands, we certainly see that. People.
Yeah.
The one challenge, of course, is if you put something like this out there and 95 people are honest, but one person takes all the money, it kills your business model. So for us, it's fine because we're donating all the money to charity. But as a social experiment, it's a lot of fun, and I do think there's a positive message in that we can all take from it.
Right. Now, I see your product, Honest Tea, in a lot of local restaurants. Sweet Greens, which is a wonderful chain, right?
Great chain for us.
I think they started here in Washington.
They did, yeah. We're very closely connected to them through some shared employees and investors.
And in Roarty, which is also another chain that I like very, very much, Middle Eastern food.
Good, healthy profile.
Where else are you now in?
So the big one for us this year is we just launched nationally with Wendy's. They sell a brewed tea. And so, 18 years ago when I was starting this company, if you could have told me that we could have an organic, fair trade, lower sugar brewed tea in 6,000 fast food restaurants around the country, I would have said, that's I don't see
they offer it in the bottles?
It's brewed. No, so it's brewed. It's fresh brewed in the restaurant. So it's actually as fresh a taste as you're going to be able to get. It's a tropical green tea that we've made for them.
And of course, people can find it in most grocery stores.
Yeah, we're now in all CVS stores. We're in
CVS stores.
CVS, really? CVS, Kroger stores, Safeway, Giant. Yeah, we really are carried in because our company we got bought by Coca-Cola in 2011, and so that expanded the distribution of the product in a dramatic way.
What is the caffeine level in?
It varies. So, the green tea and the black tea have more caffeine. We have a lot of herbal teas. Now, we've just, in fact, launched these two totally unsweetened herbal teas. And, of course, those have no caffeine.
No caffeine.
Yeah.
Green tea has caffeine?
It does, yeah. It's funny. For whatever reason, the green tea, our bestseller, the honey green tea, keeps me more awake than our black tea. But black tea does have...
Whoa. So your bestseller is the honey
green tea.
Honey green tea.
Yeah. It's a very nice, clean taste to it. A lot of people are believers that the antioxidants in green tea have positive health attributes. I think that helps because it's got a specific taste profile. But ours is a very pure green tea, and it's got sweetened with honey and organic cane sugar. It's got a really nice light flavor to it. All of our drinks are much less sweet.
I'm tempted to try
Let's
it, but
do it right now.
No, but I just have a bias against green tea. I am going to try.
You got to try.
I am going to try. During the break, when we come back, we'll talk about it. Your favorite Honest Tea. I know you know the product. You can't escape it. It's great, and all these different flavors here. This half tea and half lemonade I want to talk about too when we come back, and then my favorite is on the table. Seth Goldman here with us from Honest Tea. He's the head of it, president, and TeaEO. Got a comment or a question? 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. When I say dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, step on in at 25 after the hour and have a glass of iced tea with us. Seth Goldman here from Honest Tea. Can't do any better than that, and you can find it anywhere. The latest is at Wendy's. How about that? This, I must say, I'm a convert to this. This Honest.
Thank you.
This honey green tea is really very good.
It's
very
our top
smooth.
seller.
Yeah. I understand why it's your top seller. Right. But with the new products you've got out this year, we've got one here, right?
Yes.
There's two of them. This is Ginger Oasis herbal tea.
So totally unsweetened.
And Cinnamon Sunrise herbal tea.
Yeah.
No sweetener at all.
No sweetener. And, that was, of course, our goal from the start was to make these drinks.
Whoa. So that's 0 calories, this entire bottle?
That's right.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. We created, what happened is when you put in, ginger and cinnamon both have enough of a strong flavor that they still taste like full flavored drinks. And I've sampled these with people and they'll say, well, how many calories are in this? And I'll say 0. But you get the flavor of the spices, and that basically covers, creates the impression of sweetness.
This is the Ginger Oasis we're drinking here, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that nice? So you're really getting a flavor.
Nice?
But
yeah. No, I can see that. I mean, as instead of a soft drink, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Pick that up. And
Yeah.
How many flavors do you have?
We're up to about 35 different,
God.
Well, first of all, tea is the world's second most popular beverage. So you can make, there's teas in every culture, whether it's, a Native American herbal tea to a yerba mate in South America. So there are almost infinite combinations.
Second to coffee?
Water. So...
you
think about China, India, where tea is drunk,
right,
obviously in Russia too. So it is a really global drink in some sense. The United States is one of the smallest tea drinking populations, although we drink a lot more iced tea than we do hot tea.
But when you think of water just being like, I don't know, water's everywhere.
Right.
So really, in terms of man-made drinks, if you will, tea is number one.
Yeah. And think about it, right? So first of all, it can be sourced. It's extreme. It's enjoyed by some of the wealthiest cultures in the world, but produced by some of the poorest. So it's grown primarily in India, China, and now in Africa as well. And so it is pennies a bottle to make, or pennies a serving to make. And of course, the other reason tea has caught on in developing world is because it requires hot water.
Right,
and that kills your, any microbes in the water as well. So it's having tea is a good way to have a healthy drink.
And United States is way up in terms of iced tea.
Iced tea is growing very quickly as a category here. It's what's happening. A lot of people are moving toward healthier drinks, and tea is certainly a place that they've moved to. And there's different studies coming out, whether it's about the antioxidants in tea or like just the hydrating effects of tea.
It's good for you. Yeah. And you can find Honest Tea at Whole Foods or at Costco or at CVS. Seth Goldman, thanks so much for coming in.
Good
Congratulations.
to be with you, Bill.
All right.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Before now, it's been difficult for criminals like us to know which states have loose gun laws. How would a criminal like me know which states permit me to carry loaded guns in their amusement parks, golf courses, or beaches?
I have some violent friends. We all wear leather jackets and scream at women. And we want to find out which states we can buy and sell guns easily.
CrimAdvisor.com. That's the site to find out where it's easiest for felons and fugitives to buy, carry, and even traffic guns.
That's why I love Arizona, where I can go see the beautiful Grand Canyon and carry a loaded gun without even having to get a background check.
You would fail that background check.
I'm sure of it. Now, what about a road trip? What states can I go to fill my trunk with guns and take it back home for my even more dangerous friends?
CrimAdvisor has a list for that.
That's so unreasonable.
Our traffickers' top 10.
Nevada. What happens in Vegas may have to stay in Vegas, but your guns don't. Bring them over to California and sell them.
The market up there is hungry for guns.
I understand that CrimAdvisor.com will tell me which states really cater to us criminals and creeps, but what about the states where we're not so welcome? The ones that don't get us?
I don't even like saying the name of these states, but California, Connecticut, Maryland, and New York all have laws to keep guns out of the hands of people like us.
I want to shoot California so bad.
Boo, California.
Boo, go home. Wow. CrimAdvisor.com has all this information?
Sure does.
CrimAdvisor.com. Plan your perfect getaway. Oh, like TripAdvisor.
Oh.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans. Fracking poisons our water. Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, Wednesday, August 26th. How about it? It is The Bill Press Show. We are here in our nation's capital and our studio on Capitol Hill, where we're brought to you today by AFSCME, the wonderful men and women of AFSCME under President Lee Saunders. Great people, all the largest, making up the largest public employee and healthcare workers union in the entire country. For more information about their good work across the country, go to their website, AFSCME, AFSCME.org. Well, Congress may be out of session. That doesn't mean they are not on the job, at least some of them, even willing to get up early and get on the phone and talk to us, like Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota, joining us on our news line, representing the people of Minnesota, working for all the people of the United States, and author of a new book called The Senator Next Door, a memoir from the heartland. Welcome, Senator Klobuchar.
Well, thanks so much, Bill. It is great to be on. I thought you had me on because you were going to come out for the opening of the Minnesota State Fair tomorrow and stand out at the gate with me at 6 a.m.
Oh, my God. Well, you know, the Iowa State Fair is famous for all the unusual foods it offers, I guess. What is the Minnesota State Fair famous for?
Oh, the same. You know, chocolate-covered bacon on a stick. Peach glazed pork cheeks. These are all things I have eaten there. And, of course, the butter carving contest with Princess K and the Milky Way and the woman standing in a revolving refrigerator carving their butter buffs one day at a time.
I forgot about the butter carving contest. Oh, yeah. I heard.
Well, you're missing it. I just thought maybe that's why you were calling me. You know, you're going to announce your appearance.
Wait a minute. When does it start?
Tomorrow morning. I'm always out there at the fair because I greet all the fairgoers at about 5:45 in the morning when they arrive. 12 days. Anyway, another day you can come.
Well, it just happened, Senator, that I am coming out on
You're coming out for the Democratic National Committee. You can go. You can visit my booth right by the Bob Snake Zoo.
There it is.
Yeah.
I am coming out Thursday for the DNC
Okay, you
meeting.
actually, if you have time, you should stop by because it is the scene.
Okay, I'll tell you
It
what.
really is the biggest state fair in the country, and it's in the metro area, except for Texas, but we don't count them
No,
because they are open for an entire month.
Oh, that doesn't count. No.
All right.
So if I call your office today, I can find out about it, right?
Oh yeah.
All right,
It'll be fine.
Good. Well, congratulations.
We'll find a media escort for you.
All
right.
Oh, okay. Congratulations on the book. And
Thank
you. You'll tell the story. Can't wait to read it. Just got a hold of the copy, but it wasn't. It was an unusual journey for you, I guess, right? Getting all the way to the U.S. Senate.
Yeah, and I wrote this book myself, which is somewhat unique in political books, and it's called The Senator Next Door because I think more people have to start remembering where they came from and representing the people when they get to Washington in a way where you can actually work with people and not be so negative. And my story I told because I would like to see, I'll call them a little more normal backgrounds for people to run. I mean, I went from being a car hop at the E&W Ricker stand where they made me wear a tight T-shirt that said "Take home a jug of fun," to being a pie cutter at the then Top and Fresh Pie Shop, to the U.S. Senate. There were a few things in between, but so it's that story, and it's a story of redemption of my dad struggling with alcoholism his whole life and having gotten divorced from my mom, and then now at 87, he's finally recovered and still climbing mountains and married for the third time and happily.
And he was in the newspaper business, right?
Yeah, in fact, in 1960, he called the election for John F. Kennedy because Minnesota, Illinois, and California were still out, and he knew the northern Minnesota blue-collar Catholic stronghold where his dad had been a miner his entire life. He predicted they would go for Kennedy. They told the national AP desk that, and the guy had 2 words for them. You guys in Minnesota, I have 2 words. Be right. And they called it, and 13 minutes later, James Reston of the New York Times reported Nixon conceded. So it's a very exciting story in the book.
And making history there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that's always impressed me is the line of real giants in the U.S. Senate from Minnesota, right? Gene McCarthy and Hubert Humphrey and Paul Wellstone, Walter Mondale, whom you worked with, and now you and Al Franken continuing that tradition. What is it about Minnesota?
Well, I think, first of all, we have one of the highest voter turnouts in the country every single year. So a lot of people get engaged and interested. They tend to watch debates. So I think they tend to, and remember, we've also had many Republicans, Rudy Boswich, David Dernberger, who actually continues to work a lot on the health care issue,
right,
and other things in a really positive way. And I just think that they have the citizens demand a lot. They have high expectations for those who go to represent them. And I think you see that in some of the people that have come up through the past. I start and end the book with Hubert Humphrey just because he was this happy warrior, as they called him, someone who, in the worst of times, just always looked for the positive and really had an incredible list of accomplishments, things he'd gotten done. I actually asked for his desk in the Senate. I tell the story in the book. Oh. And a few days later, I was so excited, and I opened that desk, where they carved their name.
Oh, yeah.
And I look, and it says Gordon Humphrey, a little-known Republican senator from New Hampshire.
Is that right? Yeah, right.
True. And by then, I'd already learned to pick my battles, so I just waited a few years, whatever, like Gordon Humphrey, and I sat next to Jean Chahine when she got elected. Mm-hmm. I told her the story. She says, how do you know it's his? I said, well, he carves his name in. So I opened it to show her because they all look the same.
Yeah.
And there it is. They replaced the desk that year, and I have Hubert Humphrey's desk.
Do you now have Hubert Humphrey's desk? Wow.
Yeah.
Have you carved your name in a desk?
I asked that once when we were doing a votorama on healthcare. I was a little punchy, and I went into the cloakroom. I go, I'd like to have a nice, we'd like to start carving our names in. They said, you can't do it till the day you leave.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
Yeah,
so you have to wait.
Well, I didn't know that was a tradition. I have to ask you if you. I should know this, but I don't. So I'm going to ask you just flat out. Have you yet taken a position on the Iran nuclear deal? That's the biggest issue in front of the Senate.
Oh, yeah. I came out rather early a few weeks ago in favor of the agreement. As I said that day, I think it's the best available option to put the brakes on Iran getting a nuclear weapon. This is one of our biggest foreign policy priorities, and having talked to all those nuclear experts, having read the letter from the 29 of them, including all these Nobel laureates, I really concluded that you have, number one, a really intrusive inspection regime on the 3 facilities. Number two, the nuclear option, as the president has made very clear, remains on the table, so that if Iran cheats, it's not like we're backing off or we're bringing home ships from the region. And then number three, having met with all those ambassadors from the countries that are part of the agreement, I think that is really a major problem to splinter our international coalition. It would hurt us if we do have to use the military option, and it certainly hurts us in the eyes of the world. You've got, China and Russia are probably going to start doing business with them anyway, and then Iran would have a nuclear weapon. So those are all reasons. I do have deep respect for people on the other side. I think it was a tough decision, but that's how I came down.
Right. And do you think the president will succeed in getting that either approval or sustaining a veto?
I think the president will succeed in getting this approved. I don't know exactly where the numbers will be about if it has to get to the point of sustaining a veto. Maybe not. A lot of Debbie Stabenow just came out yesterday in favor of the agreement.
Patty Murray yesterday too.
And you have conservative, more conservative, moderate Democrats like Joe Donnelly, Claire McCaskill, John Tester coming out in favor of the agreement. So people really spent the time and looked at this, and I think it would have been easier, honestly, to oppose it because you can always find things wrong, all right?
Yeah.
And this thing is not perfect. But I think people really looked at it and came to the conclusion that it was the best thing to do.
Now, you were also, Senator Amy Klobuchar, our guest. Her new book is The Senator Next Door. It's in your local bookstore, of course, and you can get it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any of the good sites. You were one of the first senators to endorse Hillary Clinton for president in 2016. What are you going to do if Joe Biden jumps in?
Well, I like everyone else, I'm fond of the vice president. He's been a very good vice president, and I just look at it this way. Hillary Clinton is someone who I think would be an outstanding president. And when others have joined, including my good friend Bernie Sanders, we came in together. You're not going to see me ever saying a bad word about him. I just think, you just have more candidates in the race, and that's how it goes. Certainly there's a difference between our primaries so far. Our candidates are respectful of each other. They're not giving out each other's cell phone numbers as retribution, for instance. They're not disrespecting each other or other people, or sending out tweets telling newscasters that they're bimbos. They're not doing these things. I think they're running an above-board primary. Obviously, they have heartfelt views. They're all going to be in Minnesota at the end of the week here for the Democratic National Convention, along with you. But they for the committee, Democratic National Committee. And so I think that I see these two primaries as very different.
Boy, they sure are. The contrast is just, it is incredible. Well, it will be even more exciting. It's exciting already. It'll be even more exciting, I guess, if Joe Biden jumps in. And it's going to be very exciting being in Minneapolis, I have to tell you. Even more exciting than I thought, now that I know the other options that are there, Senator. So,
well, you also can go to the Mall of America, the biggest mall in the country, for my book signing. There's many options for you.
Little did I know. I think, I better call Carol and tell her I'm going to be a week in Minneapolis now.
You are not coming back.
Not just 2 days. All right, Senator.
Beautiful weather.
Oh,
all right. Well, very
great
good.
to visit
check
with
out
you.
the book. I think you guys will like it, and it just has a little more humor than some of these books, and has some pretty honest stories.
I would expect the humor and the honesty from you for sure, Senator Amy Klobuchar. The book is The Senator Next Door. There'll be also a link up on our website to the book. And Senator, thank you so much for your time this morning. Congratulations again. I'll see you in a couple of days.
All right. Thanks, Bill. See you then.
Okay.
Bye.
How about that? The butter carving contest.
Just for you, Bill. That has your name all over it.
I have to find out when the butter carving contest is taking place. I want to. Maybe I could pose. How would I look in butter?
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad, as a friend, as a husband,
As a wife.
as an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour. Here we go. Wednesday, August 26th. And the Bill Press Show, the political landscape got a little ugly yesterday indeed. This is very funny, actually, in the context of President Obama being accused by several Republicans of using incendiary language when, and I'll have a parting shot about this in just a couple of minutes, he, in Las Vegas at a fundraiser, talked about on the drive over, he and Harry Reid were reminiscing about their battles that they fought so far together in the Congress, and about how they were going to deal with the crazies on some of the issues that were still in front of them that they were trying to resolve without mentioning anybody by name, without mentioning any the Iran nuclear deal or any other issue, just in general. He used the word the crazies. And Republicans are now saying he's got to apologize for calling us crazies. How dare he use such incendiary language? I mean, talk about the pot calling the kettle black. I mean, incendiary language. First of all, I don't think there's anything wrong with crazies. I think they are crazies. I think he was being polite and mild in using that phrase among I can think of. But how about this for incendiary language? Lindsey Graham talking yesterday about Donald Trump's chances in South Carolina. This is Senator Lindsey Graham.
I'm just saying that the policies that Mr. Trump is proposing are demagoguery. His approach to describing illegal immigrants are hurting us with Hispanics. The way he attacks women is going to be a death blow to the future of our party. Come to South Carolina, and I'll beat his brains out.
Come to South Carolina.
Ay, ay, ay.
And I'll beat his brains out? Lindsey Graham? And, of course, Donald Trump doesn't stop. He's attacked everybody walking and all the other Republican candidates. He attacked Megyn Kelly again yesterday. And then here is his second grade comment on, like a second grader comment, on the Iran nuclear deal.
He's in a bicycle race. He falls, he breaks his leg. This is our chief negotiator. He's walking in. They're looking at him like, what a schmuck.
And he says he's in a bicycle race.
Yeah, right. So he calls the secretary, his response to what do you think of the Iran nuclear deal is to call John Kerry a schmuck. And then Donald Trump gets in this battle yesterday with Univision anchor Jorge Ramos at his news conference. Trump recognizes Chip Reed from CBS. Jorge Ramos tries to answer a question. Ramos was probably out of line too. But Trump shows how he handles anybody who disagrees with him.
Who's next? Yeah, please. Excuse me, sit down. You weren't called. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Go ahead.
I have the right to ask the question.
No, you don't. You haven't been called.
I have the right to ask the question.
Go back to Univision.
No.
Yeah, right. So Donald Trump, the security come in. They escort Jorge Ramos out of the room. Ramos later is invited to come back in and ask his question. He asks a question which Donald Trump doesn't really answer. We learned from that little incident, which is you'll hear it over and over again today. I think two things. Number one, that Donald Trump is rude and buffoon, which we already knew. And we also learned that Jorge Ramos is on a little ego trip of his own. He was not called on at the news conference. Chip Reed was called on. If Jorge Ramos had waited his turn, he could have asked his question without being thrown out. But I think he wanted to be thrown out, which is why he stood up and interrupted the news conference as well. So I think we learned that kind of both of them are, maybe we could say, crazies. When we come back, my parting shot on the whole crazy term coming up. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show. Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends and neighbors, what do you say? Good morning. Great to see you this morning. This is the Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., bringing you up to date on all the news of the day, whether it's happening here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe. Coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station, on Free Speech TV, and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV. Events in the nation's capital. Hi, everybody. It's Bill Press. This year marks the 10th anniversary of doing the Bill Press Show every day, covering the news of the day with the nation's top newsmakers, either on the line or in our studio right here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Not only that, I go to the White House briefings every day to get answers to the top questions of the day. Bottom line, if it's happening in Washington, D.C., either at the White House or the Capitol, we are all over it. Every day, we welcome to our studio political leaders and reporters and labor leaders and newsmakers to help us understand the issues of the day. You know, we started out as a radio show only, but over the years, we have branched out to all forms of the new media. So today, we're not just a radio show. We are podcasting, streaming audio, streaming video, and we are simulcast live on Free Speech TV nationwide. Reaching out to 40 million households on Free Speech TV, in addition to hundreds of thousands on local radio stations and online.
AFGE is so proud to be associated with this show and looks forward to being working with Bill and this show for a long time.
Bill Press is the right man at the right time with the right message.
And thanks to the Bill Press Show, we get our message out to thousands and thousands of people every day. Thank you, Bill Press.
The Teamsters are a proud partner with Bill Press on his show, telling the truth about what's going on with working families. Tune in.
Yes, it's been a fun and exciting 10 years so far for the Bill Press Show. We're looking forward to many more with all of you, broadcasting live every morning from the nation's capital.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show. The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yep, I don't know about you, but I'm getting pretty sick and tired of the politically correct police. Every day there's a new word we're not allowed to say without being branded racist, intolerant, insensitive, or just plain ugly. The latest, President Obama is under attack for telling a group of Nevada donors about how much he loves Harry Reid. Quote, "We drove over here together," the president said, "and we were doing a little reminiscing and then figuring out how we're going to deal with the crazies in terms of managing some problems." Right away, he was accused of calling opponents of the Iran nuclear deal crazies, which clearly he didn't. And besides, what's wrong with that term anyway? It's better than calling them idiots or bastards or a-holes. John McCain, remember, called all those people who turned out to see Donald Trump in Arizona crazies. And they were. And President Obama called his opponents in Congress crazies, which they are. In other words, neither one of them should apologize. They're both right. They're all crazies. And that's my parting shot for today, folks. Thanks for being with us for a great show and another one coming up tomorrow. So come on back.
This is the Bill Press Show.